My best friend is here tonight. He's the co-founder of Memphis Intercity Rugby. Back before we could ever dream of a time where we would sell out a room of supporters and believers, it was just me and him. 22 years old, coaching a boys team at Kingsbury with donated cleats from our friends at Germantown, Christian Brothers, White Station, just realizing there was something new happening. And man, this wouldn't be possible without him. So I'll give the mic up, and we're gonna close out with the co-founder of Memphis Intercity Rugby, the executive director for Harlem Lacrosse, and my best friend, Devin O'Brien.
It's tradition at MICR to save the least interesting guy for last, so we're going to kick that off. But seriously, the first thing I want to do when I talk is stop talking for a second. And I want, just for a moment, if everybody here could kind of reflect on why you're here. There's a good chance Shane kind of beat you up a little bit, like dragged you out. There's a good chance you heard, like, maybe the bar's going to be open. There's some good fights. Maybe you've been in the Memphis rugby community that embraced us 8 years ago and continues to do so today. But for just a second, let's just kind of think about what brought you to this room. You know, it's been 5 years since I've been in Memphis. I can't claim any good insights on what's going on in the day-to-day. To be honest, I can't name more than a dozen kids on our roster, and I'm not doing any of the hard work. I know that, and I also know that the reason I'm here tonight is the most important reason in my world. And I know that for all the different people in this room right now, the only thing that we've got that brought us together are our reasons. And we are unified by our reasons, and I think we came here for a reason. So I just want to talk for a second about how that evolution has occurred in my understanding of this reason, because like Shane said, when I showed up, I had a terrible haircut. I was 22 years old, and I showed up to Kingsbury High School, and I kind of wanted to start a rugby team, because this guy was like, maybe we should start a rugby team. And I understood that there were a lack of opportunities at Kingsbury High School, that I might be able to engage kids in something positive after the bells, so we gave it a shot. That next year, we went to Power Center Academy. My reason was teachers at Kingsbury saying, man, Abdul's not cutting up in Spanish anymore, and Perez just got his grade up to an A in math. Plus, Anthony looked better than I ever looked on a rugby field after about 6 months. That next year, my reason was because I understood I could help Jakari get into college. And he graduated that year after living on his friend's couch. And he showed up to school without having food to eat, but I knew that just because I could be there for him, and I could help him write that application, and I could make a little GoFundMe page and raise $1,000 because of the good people in this room, that I had a reason to be there for Jakari. And then, when we became a nonprofit, I realized that there are neighborhoods in this country into which kids are born where they are fundamentally denied access to the opportunities that their more affluent peers are afforded. And that got me mad, because I think that's wrong. And when we expanded and we were reaching hundreds of kids, and all of a sudden we had t-shirts, and all of a sudden we had a name, and Shane and I were like, we have an organization. I realized that in all the hundreds of kids that I had met, I did not believe that there could be a bad kid. And I do not think there is a possibility for a kid to lack ability or a kid to have a deficit of potential. All I know is my reason became that I believe every kid is full of potential that we can untap, and the only deficit is opportunity, and the only deficit is resources. And I knew that because of the people in this room, and because of what these people do, we can bring that opportunity to schools and we can say it's free. And we just want to do it because we care, we think it's right. Then I kind of like nerded out, was like monitoring evaluation. We have 93% of our kids improving in math. And we became kind of more sophisticated, and we measured what we were doing, and we could actually report that kids were growing socio-emotionally, academically, and athletically. And I was really excited by that, and it was tremendous, and we could kind of quantify all this blood, sweat, and tears that we were pouring out every day. And as I kind of moved to New York, I went back to New York about 5 years ago to see my family. I kept coming back because it was electric. And because kids were winning games, and kids were winning off the field more importantly. And when they shook my hand and I looked into their eyes, man, like as a teacher, I don't know what I taught, but I learned every single day from the kids that I work with, and I continue to do so today, and I kept me coming back. Then, like all the news and stuff, like all the stories, we flew out to London, and they nominated us for this award, and like the Telegraph wanted to talk to us about Memphis, and NPR wanted to talk to us about Memphis. And my reason then was I realized I had an ability to tell a story of value. Communities having assets, kids having potential. And I had an ability to share the story of the people in this room and the students in this room, and instead of the spotlight being on deficits, we had the opportunity to say that there is incredible value, and there is incredible potential, and these kids are changing the game and changing the world, and we can do it through the sport of rugby. And that was a tremendous inspiring influence in my life. Last September, I became the executive director of an organization called Harlem Lacrosse. I suck at lacrosse too. I wasn't that great at rugby. There's a theme here. You can pick that up. But I met a kid named Tajani. Tajani told me I was born in a shelter. My parents didn't speak English. I had to show my mom at a grocery shop how to get around the subways. When I was a kid, I remember being on a basketball court, dodging some bullets, and I thought my sister died. And I found her in the hallway of the projects where I was living. In school, I was failing. I didn't really think anything was going to happen in my life until a guy handed me a lacrosse stick. And I didn't need to hear anything else, man. Like, I don't need to know about lacrosse, but I get it. I understand. And it's because I understand that sport has the power to change the world. And it's because I understand that lessons on the pitch, which is a classroom for character, can translate to lessons that will empower people through the rest of their lives. And when I look out on this room, I can ask you, like, how did you become the person you are today? You know, where did you cut your teeth? How'd you develop your character? I don't think it was Algebra 1 for me, you know? That's not where it happened. But I bet there was a caring person in your life that said, I believe in you. And I bet that person said, I don't care where you're at right now, I care where we're going tomorrow. And maybe that person said, here's a sport I think you're going to love. And I think these people are going to become your family someday. And you might just become a leader. And maybe that person said, this could take you places you didn't think you were going to go. And maybe that person said, no matter what happens, I'm going to be in your corner. And maybe one day you put on some short shorts and you ran through the rain and you blew up a ruck because your buddy was down there. And you learned something from that. And that doesn't go away. And so, you know, in 2006, some guys at Harvard used this word sport-based youth development for the first time. And the United Nations, if you don't know it, just released a report about the power of sport to create peace. The Aspen Institute just cultivated 20 years of research saying that sport could be the most powerful mechanism through which we can educate children, because the non-cognitive skills, the non-algebra 1, is really what educates a child holistically and empowers them to reach their potential. And so, whether you know it or not, from the sidekick, the least interesting guy in the room, the message here is it's not about me or Shane. It's not about Memphis Inner City Rugby. It's not about rugby. It's not about Memphis. Really, this is about a movement in the world to change what it means to educate a child. It's a movement in the world to change what sport stands for. And it's a movement that's happening around the world where people understand that because we have the ability to afford opportunity to those that don't have access to them, we can change the world through sport. And so every one of you here tonight, whether you knew it or not, I hope you can go home knowing that you belong to a global movement. And that's really what I see, and it's the most inspiring thing I've ever known. And so, you know, I'm up here to ask you to check out the silent auction and to consider a gift to Memphis Inner City Rugby. But really, I just want to make space for you to reflect on how meaningful it is that you are here, and how powerful the investments you have made in Memphis Inner City Rugby have become. Because in 2006, when Harvard came up with that word, 6 years later, two schmoes with bad haircuts came out and started rugby teams. And now there is a world of organizations in sport-based youth development that I truly believe can change the landscape of opportunities for kids around the planet. And you are part of that. And I hope you understand that. And so, from the New Zealand All Blacks to the New York Times, like, that's all well and good, but they notice us for the reasons that we're here. And they notice us for what we stand for, and you guys are part of that, and I'm really fortunate for that. I just want to thank you for being here, for doing that. You know, I think we can change the world, and I think your investments at Memphis Inner City Rugby have helped us change a small corner of it, and we got a long way left to go. I want to get Shane health insurance someday, you know? You should see his car. We got to get him like some hubcaps too. But, I know that we're not where we want to be, and I envision a world where every kid can go on international rugby tournaments, and they have full-time tutors, and they have full-time coaches, and they have people in their corner helping them through all the transitions like Carlisi is embarking upon next year to make sure that we are in their corner to and through their college graduations for every kid in Memphis that wants that opportunity. And because of the people in this room, we're on our way. So thank you for doing that. I would ask you to consider another investment in Memphis Inner City Rugby by sharing our story, by telling people that you believe you can change the world through participation in this movement, by checking out some sweet photos of Leroy and other kids in that silent auction area of the room, and by accepting my profound gratitude for all that you've done for us and for being here. So thank you.